please do turn your cameras on. Awesome. Hi, Andrea.
Hello.
Cool, cool. Wow, we've got a couple of coaches in the room, and we've got some great folks who are guests and current coaching clients. It's going to be a super powerful hour. So we have the amazing Bernadette Hurley, who's one of our amazing coaches with Rieger Coaching and Consulting. I'm going to give you a little bit of background about Bernadette in case you guys don't know much about her, but she is incredible. Bernadette Hurley has worked in real estate for over 22 years. She was the founder and president of Go Hurley Group, located in Sugar Land, Texas, where she built her team to be among the top 1% of real estate agents in the Houston, Texas market. She was able to grow her team to over 50 million in annual production using her passion of coaching, mentoring, and training her team members to contribute to her success while finding her life balance to start her family. Bernadette enjoys coaching agents in all production levels and takes pride in her care and candor to push her clients to have career breakthrough moments. Her clients have benefited from her experience in sales, lead generation, team building, database, which we're talking about today, working with builders as well as management and leadership coaching. Bernadette currently lives in Raleigh, North Carolina with her husband, Chris, and 4 children, and she enjoys playing tennis, cooking, and reading. And I have a feeling we'll learn more about Bernadette throughout the hour, but man, we are so thankful to have you, Bernadette, to pour some value into all of us today. And the topic, which I believe all of you have signed on for, is database, lead generation, lead follow-up, and everything that comes encompassing around that. So Bernadette, I'm going to hand it over to you, and let's just have a powerful hour of conversation. I will encourage you guys to keep your microphones on, use the chat box, ask questions. The more that you share with us, the more we can share value for each of you. So this is truly a mastermind to have an open conversation. So take it away, Bernadette.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. So thank you guys all for coming and joining. I really appreciate it, especially for something as exciting as database. So just out of curiosity, and y'all can type this on the chat box because I just would love to know, how many of you guys are really confident in what you've created in your database? On a scale of 1 to 10, what would you rate yourself?
Love it. See the text box filling up. 6, 8,
Yeah.
7.
1 to 10. Sorry.
8.
Sort of. Sorry.
Honesty is great. That's how we grow.
That is how we grow. Awesome. And today, thank you all for sharing that. And today's class, mastermind, is about database and then also how it ties in to lead generation. So on that note, if everybody could rate how their lead gen ties into their database on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate yourself? All right, we see some numbers coming in. Awesome. So thanks for sharing. I love that. Okay, so let's get down to the nitty gritty of what database means. I remember early on in my career, everyone was always telling us the messaging was your business is your database, your business is your database. And it kind of goes in one ear and out the other for many people. We're desensitized to the term database because of how freely our industries, our trainers, our coaches throw that name around. And so it becomes less on the priority list because, let's face it, when we come into real estate, we go into lead generation first. And it's really interesting. Matt and I had a conversation of what comes first, the chicken or the egg, lead generation or database management. And for me, I'm really passionate about database management because I'm passionate about lead gen. And in my journey of building a big business, I focused first on lead gen. How many of you have done the same, where you focus on lead gen first and then the database and also the cadence to follow the lead gen second? Again, this is interactive, so I just want to know where everybody is.
Yeah, feel free to unmute yourselves and just, throw some comments out or use the chat box.
Yeah, I would love to have a conversation with somebody. So someone please talk to me.
Don't start me on the talking part because you might not get me to shut up, Bernadette.
Yeah, just gonna say the same thing.
Careful what you wish for.
I know, but that's okay. I wish it. Bring it. Because, early on, I'm what I would consider a lead generator, like master. Like I'm really good at generating the leads. I come up with some harebrained ideas of what we need to do to generate leads to come in. And when I started doing that, if you were to measure my success, if I generated 6,000 names in one weekend, the measuring stick would be how many people did you convert? And for me, I was just glad to convert 6, to be able to say, okay, that was a successful event. That was a successful 6,000 names generated because I got my 6 on to the next week. But what if I took some time to not put the chicken first, but put the egg first and work on the cadence to follow up with all of the leads generated? Then what would have happened with my success ratio then? Could I have converted 60? Could I have converted 600? Well, unfortunately, I didn't do it the way that I probably should have. So that's one of those things that we'll never really know. But I am passionate about it because I want everybody to learn from that and build their business on putting the cadence before. And when I say cadence, who can tell me what that means?
The order, the system, how they work together.
Yep, it's actually the touch.
Like a pace. It's like I like to have my system when I have an event. I like to have my system in place 8 weeks before, so I can have all my touches mapped out, phone calls, emails, all that stuff, so that you can make the most of whatever it is you're trying to do. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. So Lisa Marie, tell me about how many touches you would plan for an event.
My goal is 8 touches. So 8 weeks, so 1 a week, but also then in newsletters and other things that we do. But individual touches could be a phone call, text message, email, reminders, and then we do a Friday email blast to everybody, like a little mini newsletter. We put it in there. So our last event was a virtual mixology event. So we had a virtual mixologist from New York help everybody make cocktails. So we had a cocktail party on Zoom, and for the local people, we dropped off all the booze and all the goodies. And for the people that were far away, we, sent them the recipes and everything. So we had a ton of touches. And then even the couple days leading up, we even had more like, hey, reminder, hey, in 1 hour. So for me, the number of touches, it's really not about the event. It's about the opportunity to connect with my client.
Well, think about this. I mean, just listening to your event, how many of them are so glad they're on your list? Like I would want to always be on that list, so you did a great job tying it all in, which is really important. So let's talk really quick about database. The definition of database, who can tell me what you think that means? Because they say your business is your database. So what the heck does that mean?
A database is an orderly collection of information about clients and potential clients.
An orderly collection of names and
of information. Yeah, about them.
Okay, love it. And who can tell me, Lisa Marie, let somebody else have the job.
See, I told you.
I know, but that's
You
why.
warned us.
So who else can tell me what CRM stands for?
Oh my.
CRM.
Customer relationship management.
Who said that?
Destiny.
Oh, good job, Destiny. For those of you that don't know the amazing Destiny, I should have introduced her. She is our Director of Operations for Rigor Coaching and Consulting, and she is really in charge of our database. So good answer. You're doing the job right.
Great job.
Okay, and so this is the disconnect that I think that most agents have with database, because like Lisa Marie said, it's the collection of data, data points of people, but the CRM, the client relationship manager, is the brain that does something with the data. Make sense? So everybody here has or should have a client, a CRM. Is anybody operating without a CRM? Well, let's not, I won't call you out.
Don't raise your hand.
Yeah, we're not going to call you out. But if you're not operating with a CRM, I hope that if there's one thing that you take away from this, it is that the data that you've collected systematically has an event or has something to do. Like we have a touch plan, or we're utilizing it to do what it's designed to do, which is have to be the relationship manager between you and them. So let's kind of talk really quick about what Lisa Marie shared a second ago, that when she has an event, her client relationship manager starts touching base with them 8 weeks before the event. And the goal with CRM is automation. It's automation. A lot of times when I'm introduced to new coaching clients and I'm just talking about, tell me about your everyday. What does your everyday look like? Well, without automation, I start here and then I do this, and then I might go into this, and then I might do birthdays, and then I might send emails, and then I might do text messages. Well, that's a lot of thinking. The CRM is designed to do the thinking for you. It's designed to help remind you when you met somebody in an open house and they told you that they were going to buy in 2 years. It's designed to remind you to call them at about a year out and just say, hey, it's Bernadette Hurley again. We met a year ago and I just wanted to loop back around. Are we still on track for closing in a year? Let's get together, put them on a plan, and then systematically send stuff out to them. Who here wants to talk about the system of communication? I want to be mindful of what you need, because I can also keep on chatting away, and I want to be able to answer any questions that you might have about database. Andrea.
Yeah, Andrea.
I have a question, Bernadette. Okay, so you were saying in the beginning, you're like, I might reach 6,000 people and 6 of them convert, and that's a win. But what if I had actual systems and followed up with them and I had 60? And so then we started talking, Lisa Marie talked about how she has this 8-touch system, and that sounds amazing. Where do we draw the line, right? Because like an 8-touch system is really awesome, and I don't know if I have time to put that in place. So what do I do halfway? Where do I start? I don't want to keep getting ready to get ready and just never do anything. So like, help me understand how to balance this.
Okay, that's a really good point. Thanks for bringing that up. There's only so much time that we have in the day. When you look at your calendar and there's like barely enough time to grab a cup of coffee, it's a little overwhelming. And you also start to recognize that time is critical and you don't want to spend time wasting it. However, on that note, if you were going to put the effort into launching a lead generation plan, then the goal should be ROI. What's the best rate of it? What's the return on the investment of the time that I'm going to put in? And if the investment can be worth more with a little bit more time on my end, then that's where you have to make that decision on how much time should I put in designing something. If it's not you, then who? That's the one question. Who's the who? Because somebody has to do it to really make it successful. So let me put things in the context of what I did. Every year, I always implemented a brand new lead generation plan. My first year coming out of real estate, I went into the bridal shows and set up a booth. And rather than letting them know about housing, I had a prize. And if you registered here, you could have limousine service for either your bachelorette party, your bachelor party, or the wedding itself. And based on you filling out all of the questions on the form will allow you to either be eligible for the drawing or not eligible for the drawing. So in that circumstance, I had 6,000 names come through. So what am I going to do with those 6,000 names? Well, the questionnaire that I asked was so specific so that the ones that were really planning on making a move right away were identified, and I can just plop them out. I called that my hot sheet. So they made it to my hot bucket. And at the end of the show, who did I call? I only called my hot bucket. It's everybody that had said, I'm thinking about buying or selling. But what would have happened if I took time to develop a touch plan? So Lisa Marie says eight touches in 8 weeks. What if it was just 1 touch a month? Let's go from creating 8 pieces to 12 pieces. What if it was twice a month? Now we're only creating 24 pieces. So how much time does it really take to create 24 pieces? Because I guarantee it would have had a different return on my investment. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, that was really good. I think that it's hard to kind of balance that. And I think you just put it into perspective. It's like, figure it out, but also it's an out. It's, if that's not you, then who? Like, okay, maybe you're not going to do it. Maybe your job is to go out and find those 6,000 people, and you hire somebody to get your database in order to make sure those touches go out. Like, right? Because how are you going to get the greatest return on investment is actually, even after the money out to pay somebody to do that, you're still bringing way more in. So thank you, Bernadette. That was great.
Yeah. And so there always has to be a who. And in real estate, we wear so many hats, and we come into this industry being really good at our natural talents, but yet every job description and every role that plays a part of transaction, from lead gen to close, requires a different personality profile than our natural profile that we're showing up for. And so that's why we have a love-hate relationship with what we do every day. And that's because we don't wear all of those personality types that do that role best. So we are always constantly talking about leverage. And if you're not quite in a position where you can leverage a VA, leverage your first assistant, leverage a team of people, then we go into, then who's going to do it? That's where you have to look in the mirror and say, well, I guess I'm going to do it. I guess I'll forgo sleep tonight for 2 hours so that I can do that. And that's okay. I mean, there's not a top producer on the planet that hasn't put in their sweat and hard work into doing what they need to do until they get to that leverage piece. So let's talk about database. What do you guys want to know?
Betsy had a question, Bernadette.
Hi. So I had sort of a broad question. So we have, if you guys see down on my gallery view, the lovely picture of the lady with the brown hair and the dark hair, and that's Cameron. And she's gonna be mad at me for calling her out, but I'm gonna.
Hi. No, you're fine.
So I'm Cameron's mentor, and
Okay.
Cameron's been an agent for a couple of years. Had a little bit of a slow start just because of the previous brokerage that she was a part of. Had some great transactions, but it wasn't necessarily coming from the perspective of driving at her database. So she and I are working on that together, and I'm going to help her. We have an incredible CRM from our brokerage currently, but I think that, potentially a lot of us are coming from a variety of experience. And I'm just thinking, as I'm listening to this, like, I'm almost to the point of doing an 8-touch system and doing an event. My designated broker definitely is, and has that down like pat. And I'm watching her and learning, but then I'm looking at it from the perspective of someone like Cameron, we're putting together her database. We're coming in with a system in, putting it into it's Chime as our CRM. And I'm just trying to think of how do I kind of take, and I want to do it in an organized, orderly way for her so she doesn't feel overwhelmed. And
Okay.
that he's coming from that perspective of kind of a new, she's not a new agent. She's got experience, but it has been, as my coach, Erica would say, it's been reactive.
Yeah.
Instead of proactive, or instead of driving it and directing it yourself. And I'm just kind of wondering if you have an advice that we can help Cameron not feel overwhelmed by that concept, that perspective of, how she's driving that database.
I think that's a great question. And Bernadette, maybe this leads into a question that could tie into an answer. In my experience, it's always been important to identify who is in your database first, and really identify what touches am I doing to what population? Am I focusing on my past clients? Am I focusing on nurtures? Am I focusing at people that I met at a trade show? So I'm wondering if we need to attack who's in your database and then identify what do we send out and to create the right touches. Because you could do a one size fits all just for everyone, but if you want to capture a specific audience of nurturing and getting more business, we really need to know who's in our database, correct?
Absolutely, yeah. So if you think about database in general, we all have several. We all have several databases. The information lies in different places. This is probably the most common database that we have, which is our phone. Everyone we know and love is in here. I would start here first and I would pull out your SOI, your sphere of influence. So the most common people that are in the database are your sphere of influence. Those are people who know you, like you, and trust you. You definitely want to pull them first. So we want to build that first, because that's where a lot of the bread and butter will come from. Most people, from who they know, just from who they know and their natural ability to have conversations with who they know and the ties that they have with who they know, can probably pull between 2 and 10 transactions just from their phone alone. And so we're going to start there. The other database would be Facebook, right? How many of us have friends in there that we don't know, or maybe we knew them when we were in elementary and know nothing about them since then? We also have Instagram. We have email. There's a database in there. We've got, this will date me, but if I used to have a little phone directory or a Rolodex, if it's in there, that's another database in itself. So as you're compiling the database for your CRM, I'm really crystal clear with this, with all of my people that I coach. The CRM is designed for you to make money. If you don't think you're going to make money from them, or you don't want to put them into your database, maybe they're a competitor, they don't belong in your CRM, they can just stay in this. And that's perfectly fine. So it's being able to identify who you want in the database. There's a lot of times when I might have a random conversation with somebody and say, well, how many people are in your database? And they're so excited to say, I got 10,000 people. It's not, the success is not in the number. The success is in the organization and the operation of what the CRM is doing with how you organized it. So let's just talk really quick about tags. Depending on your CRM, it's either a tag or a hashtag or a field. We manipulate the CRM to be able to filter how we need it. So the purpose of tags, there's 2 purposes. The first is filtering to get people, to filter and say, okay, I need all of my leads. So I'm going to pull the lead tag from 2020. So now I'm going to pull lead and I'm going to pull 2020, and those leads are going to pop up. And so I know that today I'm going to clear and I'm going to purge all of those leads from last year, so that they don't continue to stay in my database. So I'm really protective of who stays onto my database and who comes into my database. So in the database, there's going to live the people who you know, like, and trust, or who know, like, and trust you. And then the flip side is the answer to your lead generation and to your prospecting. And that is all of the leads that you can create from whatever avenue of lead generation you're doing. And then how do we tag them? Because they're going to be tagged differently also. Any questions on that? Because that was a lot of information in a short amount of time, and I don't want to leave anybody behind.
Is there such thing as too many tags?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I asked a friend of mine, she was frustrated about her CRM, and she had asked me, how many tags is normal? I said, well, honestly, I think a really solid CRM can function with like 20 tags or less. How many tags do you have? She's like, well, hang on, let me check. She's like, I have 130 tags, and like 70 of them only have one person tagged that way. Well, how are you going to remember what the tags are? Like, that creates more work for you if you don't take time to really simplify your tags to where you know them, who they're, I mean, like of the 30 tags, you should be able to identify all of the different groups within your CRM. So you would tag them by, like, if some people are in moms groups, maybe you tag moms group. There are some people who like to tag Facebook because they're Facebook marketers, but is that necessary? Could that just function under leads? So understanding why we're tagging with certain tags is really important. And then ask yourself, is it important that we use that tag, or is there some place within the contact that we can source where the lead came from?
Really good.
Destiny?
So you talked about how you go through and you pull all my 2020 leads and you purge them. Well, do you just re-tag them? They stay in your database, but you re-tag them for like, this is a current active and this one's going to go in, you know, follow up in like 5 years, or like the like not active like database. Is that how you do it? Like, I don't know. We call it like a pond, I guess, is what people.
Yeah, I agree. And honestly, everybody's going to do it differently. When I really started getting serious about my database, I'm going to admit I wasn't an early adapter. I was probably in the business 10 years. And it all started when I went to a training. And that's why I'm really sensitive about never calling anybody out, because I was called out. They said, how many of you function in a way where 50% of your business comes from, or 90% of your business comes from referrals, repeat customers and referrals? And a few people raised their hand. What about 80%? What about 70%? What about 60%? And for me, I was really proud of the fact that I've mastered lead gen, that I didn't have to tap into my database. I was really happy about that because that's my personality profile. I didn't necessarily want to bother the people that I knew. I would rather just go spend time lead generating. So on that note, I was called out to just say, okay, I'm losing money by not tapping into what for many agents is a high producing income generator for them, which is the database. So I started to get crystal clear. And I think her name was Cameron. Cameron, you're overwhelmed and stressed. Well, I hate to say that's just part of the initiation. You're going to have to be overwhelmed and stressed because it's not an easy task. The best thing that you can do is just really break it down into bite-sized pieces that with passion and with the propensity to getting it done, you just work on nailing that. Like if today you're just going to pull your VIPs from the phone, maybe A through C, start there and do A through C, and tomorrow's task can be D through F, and then the next day's task, and so on until you've cleared all SOIs and VIPs from your phone, have put them into the database, tag them appropriately. Now we can go on to the next group of people.
I have to say, when I give Cameron a job, she slays it. She's like, boom, done. What's next, Betsy? Give it to me. And I'm like, wait a minute.
Awesome. I mean, I think that's the way to go.
Yeah, I definitely, I feel like you're just saying how, it's overwhelming and stuff. And I actually am feeling like it's probably a good thing actually that I am feeling overwhelmed because it's making me push me harder. So
Good. And I want to put things in perspective for you guys. Early on in my career, I heard of the 24-to-1 prospecting ratio, 24-to-1. What that means is for you to close one deal means that you have to have 24 people being touched systematically over the course of 1 year. Think about that. For one transaction, you need to systematically touch 24 people. So what that means is if you want to close 20 deals from your database or using your CRM, then you've got to fill your CRM with 480 people that we can touch systematically. That's why they keep saying your business is your database, and number one priority list every day is to feed the database. I'm sure you'll all have heard that. Feed the database, feed the database. Well, what the heck does that mean? Well, that means you got to lead generate. It means you got to network. You got to go do stuff to feed the database so that what you've created, which is the touch plan, does the automation for you to say, hey, look at Cameron, she sells real estate. Here's Cameron's list of homes that she's listed this week. Or look at the sold list of what Cameron did. Or Cameron sells all of these subdivisions and communities. Who do you know? Where they're just getting stuff from you. And then when it's time for you to do your care call and talk to them, everybody, whenever I talk to somebody and they say, I hate making phone calls because they don't want to sell themselves. Well, don't sell yourself. Let automation sell you, and you just call and care on them. Like, how are you? What are you up to? Is everything okay? How are you doing with the pandemic? You don't even have to ask them about real estate because automation told them that if they need real estate, that you're the person. You're just putting yourself in opportunity's way to systematically use conversation as one of the touches. So as we're building out how many touches every person has to have, according to the 24-to-1 ratio, they just need to be touched once, regular contact over the period of 1 year. Depending on your brokerage and your mindset, some people might say it's 33 touches per year. Some people might say it's 80 touches per year. Some people will say, I think 12's enough. You've got to figure out how many touches does your sphere of influence need to have from you to guarantee that they don't go anywhere else but to you when they need to buy or sell, which, by the way, when they need to buy or sell, you're not going to be in front of them. So that's where the touch is important, because they need to be receiving something from you on a consistent basis to remind them of who they're going to call when they're ready.
I love what Andrea put in the text box. She says your business is in direct proportion to how many people are in your database and how often you remind them you are in business.
Love
and when I read that, it reminded me of some statistics that Craig Rieger has been teaching a lot is, NAR did a survey and they asked, today, I just gave you the keys to a house. How often, on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to use your agent again? And they usually say 9 out of 10. They're excited. They had a great experience. And then when they take a poll, a year later and ask the same question, what do you think the NAR stat is that those people say they'd use their agent again? 11 to 17%.
It goes
which
down.
is staggering when you think about to go from 90% to 11 to 17. So going back to your point, Bernadette, is how often are your people hearing you in a systematic way using your database?
Yeah.
You've got to be systematic and you've got to be in front of them. So they think of you when it's time to buy, sell, or invest in real estate.
Well, I think it was either Destiny or Andrea that asked me what I did when I decided that I didn't want them in my database on my radar.
Like you're active, right?
Yeah. Well, for me, my database, when I decided to finally really take it to the top, is I invested money into it. So there's postage, there's postcards. When you think of CRM, client relationship manager, there's some automation. A lot of it can be automated if it's text and email. It can also help automate by telling you when you promised that you were going to call them next, and it'll pop up as a to-do that I met Matt at an open house, yesterday, and Matt told me that he's planning on buying in 2 years. So I need to set a to-do for me to call Matt in 6 months to either invite him to another open house because he's open housing well before he's ready to buy, put him on a list of open houses that he can come to. Like he's going to have his own attack plan of what he needs, what I need to do to be in front of him at the finish line when he's really ready to buy in 2 years. And the truth is if I don't taper that plan systematic, I might miss it because I wasn't in front of Matt when he and his family decided that they were going to move up the timeline, and it was no longer going to be in 2 years, it was going to be in 1 year. So it's a matter of setting reminders, to-dos. But going back to the database, for me, I did mailing, I did postcards, I did letters, I did newsletters, not all electronic. I believe that when you only take the electronic approach, you become desensitized and it doesn't speak everybody's language. So I wanted to have a multimedia touch plan. So with that in mind, if you were in my SOI, tagged SOI, I knew the cost per SOI was $11 per year. And I also knew that the cost to be a VIP was $37 per year. And so I'm always ultra sensitive about who's SOI and who's VIP. And then if you were a lead, it was always going to require a phone call. And for my team, I looked at my team and there was a lot of, they didn't want the dead leads. So we had the option to keep them in the CRM or to purge them and date them for later follow-up. Because I'm a lead generator, we opted to purge them completely. If lead generating is not your cup of tea, then that should be gold to you, provided that you're willing to make the phone calls and reach back out and reignite them. If you're not willing to do it, call it what it is and then purge them. Sometimes it's just better to get back to knowing what your true numbers are of what the possible pipeline and what the true database looks like. Let's take a moment here. Any questions? I don't want to leave anyone behind. Reading some of the comments. Okay, so let's just touch really quick. The database is going to take time to build if you're just getting it started. If you have it, once you've got that, the next job is still difficult, which is setting up the touch plan. And every CRM will have really important features that you should learn and you should use, which is how do you set up the automated touch? If you are with Top Producer, I was with Top Producer, we called it campaigns. But if you're with Keller Williams, campaigns means something completely different. It means how you market on social media and Google Ads. Some people call it an action plan. So you got to identify what language your CRM speaks and figure out how do I get it to automate. You can either automate with HTML email so that when it opens, there they are, there you are. Or a lot of times people might just do plain text. You can automate everything from text messaging on their birthdays, text messaging on their home anniversary. It can automate emailing them something, like you can pre-write all of your emails that say it's daylight savings, just wanted to send you a quick reminder.
Andrea's getting excited about this, Bernadette. She's getting excited. Do you see her face lighting up? And her hand keeps bobbing up and down. So I'm like, okay, this must be important, Andrea. Sorry to interrupt you, Bernadette.
No, sorry, because I was not looking at the screen at all the hands going up. So my bad. Thanks for stopping me.
No, you're awesome. I love the I'm a very systems oriented person. So the more I can get automated and systematized and just know it's going to go and not have to have it in my brain or try to keep track of, the better. And to my own fault, because systematize the birthday, systematize the email system. At what point, like, when do I need to give personal touch? Like, tell me what the rule is here. Like, do I ever have to call them? Do I ever have to do something personal, or can it all just be systematized?
Well, can I just say that in the best case scenario, we have 4 to-dos with scheduled phone calls in the best case scenario. But I'm real, and I know that there are plenty of people who to pick up the phone is like I'm asking them, I'm murdering them. And I don't want to murder you. I mean, setting up automation with no phone call is better than nothing. No phone call and no automation. In the whole, if everything was a poker hand, that's probably not calling them is probably like a straight versus a royal flush. The royal flush is where you're calling them at least 4 times a year. Now, if it's scary to you to call your database, you have to create a reason why you would call them besides just asking them if they're looking to buy or sell. So this is where I would highly recommend you setting up client events or community events that serve a cause so that you can call them from a different approach, which is to help you support an organization. And that's an easy call to make, to just say, I'm collecting cans of food for the food drive for Thanksgiving. Is it possible for you? Can I count on you to, collect a bag, and I don't mind coming by to pick it up. So creating that, a text plan where they get texts from you. And if you don't want to make it warm and fuzzy because birthdays and anniversaries are more of a personal touch, then do it on the night before daylight savings, because there's still a large percentage of our country that forgets when that happens. So I would do it then.
Like, find alternatives that they're not already getting calls on, right?
Yeah, totally. I mean, if you wanted to do something really crazy, like text them on Groundhog Day, with a boomerang. So it's the same thing running over and over again. But, there's lots of different ways to be creative. I will say this, if you're not a dialer and you are really sensitive about making phone calls, then go all in with automation and text. That's the best that you can do to treat your business to the best shot at big success. But if you're a dialer and you don't mind building relationships, then put the calls in. I'm also aware that the balance of life of what we do when we're not selling real estate can be really crazy. There's 4, 8, 12, 16, there's 17 people on the call, and all 17 of us, when we're done selling real estate, we go back to our own version of crazy. And if that version of crazy keeps you from calling, that's okay. Just set up automation first. Step 1 is get crystal clear on how often you want to touch them in an automated format. Set the tone of designing all of your touches. That's a pain in the butt too. And then that's for your sphere of influence and your VIPs. The flip side to that is the people that you don't know, because that's the second half of our database, which is all the names that we've lead generated or we've met through networking. What do we do with them, and what are they getting? I come from KW, that we call that the 12 direct. 12 direct just means you're getting 1 email per month on a 12-month basis. So set up a 12 direct so they at least get 12 things from you if they're a total stranger that you met in an open house. And within those 12 emails, there better be your value proposition of why they need to be in business with you throughout this process, because that's your voice. That's your voice 12 times per year, to be able to convert that. So the messaging is important for the have not mets and for the people that you pull through your lead generation activities that don't know you. That's your opportunity to sell them.
I also want to say, I think it's fair to say, looking in the room, we've got some solo agents, we've got some agents who are on a team, we have some top producing agents and rainmakers that maybe already have an admin in place to help support these activities. For those of you that are solo, you're maybe thinking, wow, this is so much work, I feel overwhelmed. You know, make it sequential. It doesn't all have to be done overnight. But as Bernadette said early on when she first started, we have a few different databases. This is one of them, as is Facebook. I'm sure all of us, I'm going to make a very broad generalization, will watch TV and play in Facebook. Is that a fair statement? Yeah, I mean, for some of us. There's a very simple method that you can also use to stay in front of your people. It's called LCM on Facebook. And if Mateo's still on here, he knows this, and he's been doing it and getting business. When you see people on Facebook who are either your past clients or future clients, if you see a post, first you like it, then you comment on it, and then you send them an instant message. And it just gets you back in front of mind with them. It might stir a conversation. It might delete what's happening in the market. Facebook can be a huge lead generation source that can be very simple. And even this week, I'll use myself as an example. Even Craig pointed it out. He noticed it. I put Magnificent Maddie Monday. What happened today? I had one buyer referral, one listing referral, a new coaching client joined the company, and this, that, and the other thing. And what happened when people saw that? I got 2 more referrals this week. Oh, Matt, I forgot you were in real estate. Oh, Matt, do you only sell in Salem or will you do Portland too? That created business. So my point in saying all of that, I mean, yes, systematic database. Yes, get some programs together. Yes, figure out your campaigns. But for those of you that might feel overwhelmed by taking it in bite-sized pieces, but use your social media as also a way to grow that database and grow your business. And it's okay to go that route too.
Yeah.
So good. Yeah, I completely agree. Very well put.
Thank you.
Does anybody else want to chime in or chat about anything else?
Yeah, we got 10 minutes.
Just another like tip for our Facebook friends. If you post something that requires like an interactive, like, hey, what's everyone's favorite drink, or like a question, and it gets a whole bunch of posts on it, you are then spreading your like sphere. Like more people will see you and you will start seeing more people on your feed because of the algorithm. So that's also something to keep in mind, is you want to be posting stuff that other people are seeing and interacting on and commenting, because then your algorithm, like your sphere, grows as well.
Yeah.
Smart.
There are some people that I'm even coaching that would prefer to work not in the CRM database, but on the Facebook world. And as long as it's systematized, you're okay. If that's how you want to choose to do your business, but everything has to be systematized. Yeah. I love LCM. I'm going to use that for sure. You know, systematize your posts. What is the order of personal, business, family, vacation? Like how are we going to drip that out? And what does that posting schedule look like? I would go so far to go that way, that everything's automated. Automation can just mean to remove the thinking, right? And all we're doing is we're following a system. And so we don't have to think about it. We might have to think about the post, but we don't have to think about where am I gonna, what am I supposed to post today? So yeah, I mean, it's just recognizing the different databases and then really being systematic on the approach of how you want to attack being in front of them frequently. So the last piece of advice I would probably give on this mastermind with the database is when you meet somebody, there's 3 things you need to do. If you're just meeting somebody for the first time, you need to add them into your database, not just database, but CRM. And sometimes we add them into our database because we say, let me have your number, let me put you into my phone. Okay, that's adding them into a database, but we add them there. Then we have to determine when is the next point of contact I'm going to have with this person. That has to happen. In real estate, we have to be the person that takes control of that. They used to say that the winner, he who holds the data, which is the contact, is the controller of the relationship. So if somebody's going to give you the information, you will control the relationship by being in front of them next. So you have to identify, when do I call them next? So if you're automated, you go in and you tell your CRM to set up a to-do and to set up the next call, and you've taken notes on this person. It's like you're creating a dossier on everybody that you meet. Met Cindy at Sherry's party. She was wearing the yellow dress, in case you forget, have a memory like me. She was wearing the yellow dress and her husband's name is Paul, and she has 2 kids. And we talked about this in common, and I said I would call her and maybe we would go shopping. So now when this pops up on my to-do, that I told myself that I would call her in 1 month, trust me, I've already forgotten her name. I've already forgotten what her kids' names are. And I already forgot why I told her I was going to call her to begin with. Because a lot can happen between then and that time. It's called life. And so we lean into our CRM and our ability to take really good notes so that you can remember what you were called to do, which is to call her and schedule that date where we could go do this activity together. The third thing that you do once you've determined it and set up a to-do is then you add them to the appropriate plan. Are they going to be getting my 12 direct, which is 12 touches per year, once a month? Will I be inviting them to my client event? So now they're going to be privileged to receive my invitation in the mail. They'll have a phone call invitation from me. Or do I just keep them on calls where I'm just scheduling the next to do? You make the judgment call on that. You know when it's appropriate to add people into the call. I mean, to add people into a plan, or to just leave them with a to do. That's okay too. So that's my parting words in terms of the database and meeting people. And then when it comes to how are you going to massage the people that you know and the people that know you, like you, trust you? Well, how much are you, create the budget. This is where the budget matters. How much are you going to invest in the budget with mailers and all of that? Sketch it out, draw up a marketing plan, and know on paper what your touch plan looks like.
So good. And I love just the last couple minutes of what you shared. I mean, the whole thing was great, but the last couple minutes of like basics, right? Put them in the database, put in the notes, add the follow-up to do. Like, it's so basic. But the thing is that when you're in the moment, you're like, oh yeah, Cindy with the red dress. Like, how would I forget that? Yeah, she had 2 kids. Like, obviously I met them. I'm not going to forget that. But you do. And life comes after you. And that's not top of mind anymore. And not only do you forget about her, you're never going to follow up with her. It's a lost opportunity. So in the moment, it seems so like, obviously I know this, I'll remember it, but just keep doing it, because the whole point is to build thousands of these where you would of course never remember them, and you just have a systematic way of staying in touch.
Yeah.
It's kind of like being like your best like executive assistant. So imagine you as like this high-end CEO of your own business, and you know all these people, and you have your assistant following you with the list of, oh, this is so and so, you met her here, da 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 da. Like, you need to do that for yourself.
It's so true. It's like that scene in The Devil Wears Prada where Meryl Streep's at that big party and this big fancy couple's coming and she's like, who's coming at me? Oh, that's the Duke. That's the Duchess. Blah, 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 blah. To your point, Destiny, that's what that will do for you.
Yep.
Totally.
You
I
meet
feel
so
like-
many people, you're never going to remember everybody.
Right.
Well, this is such a big topic that I almost feel like we could like divide this topic into several segments over the remainder of the year. What a great foundational conversation around this, Bernadette. And I so thank you for your time and your wisdom and your knowledge and your expertise.
Of course. Loved it.
Last 2 minutes. Are there any thoughts, questions, anything you want to pop in? All right. I think with that, we just wish you all a powerful and productive day. And thanks for taking time out of your day to spend it with us.
You all
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks,
Bernadette.
Bernadette.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.